This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Of course, we've seen a downturn in the farm economy over the past couple of years, and many farmers are looking for new opportunities for off-farm income. In addition to industry knowledge and, of course, expertise gained from their work on the farm, farmers also bring with them a strong network of individuals who trust them. Agribusinesses such as Nationwide are seeking these types of individuals to add to their teams. On this Ohio Farm Bureau podcast, we kick off a series that will explore options that may be available to those looking for a new career path. We're going to hear from experts who've already started similar journeys as we discuss their jobs and how to get started in the industry. Eric Haynes joins us. He is from Crawford County, the current president of the Crawford County Farm Bureau, also working for CSI Insurance. Eric, great to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ty. Thanks for the opportunity, and nice to see you as well.
We'll get into more of your story in a bit, but for some background for listeners and viewers, tell us about your company and what you do.
So with CSI Insurance, we are an insurance agency. Our main office is located in Tiffin, Ohio. We do also have offices in Galion, Amherst, Norwalk, and Fostoria. We do anything from home and auto to farm, commercial. My main position with the agency is a farm producer, really have a focus on the farm and crop side. So,
what's on farm look like?
On farm, I work with my family. We have a grain farm in Crawford County. There's about probably 7 of us that help out on the farm in the family. My dad and uncle run the operation. I do have a brother and 2 cousins that help as well, and grandpa's still around and able to help out too. So we're blessed to have all of us in the family, and especially blessed to be able to work with grandpa still.
I mentioned you're one of those experts that kind of work both sides of the fence, if you will. What inspired you to become a farm insurance agent, and how'd you get started?
Yeah, so my main inspiration was really while at college, I saw a good opportunity to be able to come home, work with local farmers in the community, and be able to help them on their operation, whether it be day to day or making it to the next season. That was really the inspiration for me to get started in insurance. How I got started, I went to Ohio State. While I was there, I did do 2 internships with a local co-op. I did enjoy those internships, but I just wasn't sure how they would mesh well with helping working on the farm. And my last summer, I was able to have an opportunity to intern with CSI, and that went really well. Started full time after I graduated in 2018. So.
I mentioned that you bring that network of people that you know and that trust you. And of course, what you know from your farm experience, we'll talk about that in a bit, how it works into what you do day to day there at CSI Insurance. But what about qualifications, certifications? What types of things are necessary if people want to get into doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so qualifications at the bare minimum, you do need your P&C or property and casualty license. That is a 40-hour class followed by a test to obtain your license. On the P&C side, that would give you the ability to work with home and auto, farm, commercial. So that's everything on that side. If you're interested in life or health, there is a separate class and test for that. So crop side, there's also a separate class and test for that as well. There are minimum continuing education requirements that you have to meet too every couple of years, I believe. So that's kind of bare minimum. Like I said, I did go to Ohio State. That's not required, but it really did benefit me to be an expert in the field, in the agricultural field, to have that education. So there's your what's called APHIS, or Agribusiness and Farm Insurance Specialist. That's another designation that you can obtain. Just more education to help you be an expert in the field.
I have to ask, this is a 40 plus hour work week that you're doing with CSI Insurance. How do you go about balancing the responsibilities of being a farm insurance agent and managing your farm operation at the same time?
That's a great question, and really what was attractive or made the insurance industry attractive to me, specifically being a farm agent, because when it's time to plant, time to harvest, time to spray, farmers don't want to talk to you about insurance. During those times, it allows me to focus on the farm. Outside of that, winter time is heavily more involved with the insurance side of things compared to the farm side. And just like I said, with my family, we have 7 involved on the farm. I'm really just a small drop in the bucket compared to what those guys do, especially in the winter time. So other than that, just always trying to answer my phone and get my service work done as quick as I can.
Yeah, if you get insurance calls, yeah, if you get insurance calls during planting or harvest, that's not a good thing. No, you want to make sure that people are running smooth as possible out there in the field during that time of year. Being a farmer, I mentioned too, also helps. That experience of being a real life farmer and then having this job as your off farm income. How has that experience as your farmer shaped your approach to helping others with their insurance needs?
Yeah, it's really being a farmer. And not just the farm, but being on like Farm Bureau board or Soil and Water board as well. It's really just helped me see the industry all the way through, just get a full picture. Being able to relate to what farmers go through every day and every season. That allows me to know what to look for, what questions to ask, what coverages they really do need, what they might not need, and just being able to relate to what they do day in and day out.
What are some of the most common insurance-related challenges that you see farmers facing these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, it's really just the general scope of how complex these insurance policies are now. I know my manager always talks that when he started, it was only 5 or 10 pages of a policy contract language, and now it's like 50 to 100 plus pages. How complex these policies are and how fast both the insurance and the agricultural industry is evolving. So finding that trusted advisor that you can work with to help guide you on what coverages you need, that's really the biggest challenge in my opinion.
You mentioned the evolution of agriculture. We've all seen that over the past 20, 30 years, and it seems to be ramping up as new technologies come online. And of course, your industry there on the insurance side is changing on a daily basis as well. How do you see your role evolving with all the changes we're seeing in both industries?
Really for me, the key would be education, just staying up to date on everything, whether it be the big talks now are autonomous tractors or AI, and how AI will affect insurance and agriculture. So just this is all new technology, new ideas. How are we going to cover those things? How are we going to protect our farmers utilizing that technology? So just staying up to date, being educated, and informing your clients what they need to know. That I think that'll be the key down the road.
I know you're a great resource for farmers as they have their insurance needs in that part of the state. And I know you're going to be a great resource too for people wanting to find out more if they can juggle an off-farm job with their duties on the farm as well. For those wanting to know more about what you do, how can they get a hold of you and learn more about CSI Insurance?
You can email us, give us a call. Feel free to get a hold of us anytime.
Eric Haynes, he is with CSI Insurance and also the current president of the Crawford County Farm Bureau. Great to visit with you and appreciate all you do both on and off the farm. I know that it's more than a 40-hour week and some sleepless nights, I'm sure, but appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty.
Hey, this is Matt, Phil, and Libby, hosts of Ag Credit Set It, your go-to podcast for insights on farm finance and maximizing your return on investment.
Tune in to new episodes of Ag Credit Set It twice a month as we talk to industry leaders, financial experts, and farmers who share their experiences and perspective.
Listen in your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and be sure to subscribe to Ag Credit Set It so you never miss an episode. We'll talk to you soon.
Who feeds your need for new ideas for your family's best farm future? Ohio Farm Bureau. We work with our members to shape ag policy that will positively impact our industry. Farm Bureau is advancing business solutions to give you a competitive advantage. We help you gather information to stay ahead of important topics and technologies. Plus, Ohio Farm Bureau creates opportunities for growth. Ohio Farm Bureau, feeding your need for new ideas.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. As the agricultural workforce evolves, many farmers are approaching the end of their careers. After decades of tilling the soil, maintaining livestock, overseeing farm operations, some might have a hard time envisioning life after farming. Retirement, an interesting topic. We bring in Robert Moore. He is an attorney and research specialist for Ohio State's Agricultural and Resource Law Program. Robert, welcome back to the podcast. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's the age-old question, isn't it? What does retirement look like for those who have dedicated their lives to farming? And as you and I talked about before we hit the record button, it often just doesn't happen, does it?
It doesn't. Most farmers don't go sit on a beach somewhere. I usually describe it as, I think the goal for most farmers is to transition from the decision maker to the tractor driver. I think that's the goal. Now, how do we make that happen? That looks very different depending on the situation.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. And I want to start by just, some people may be thinking about it. They may be a little later in their career, but how early is too early to really start the planning process for retirement?
Yeah, well, the obvious answer is it's never too early, but I would say, once maybe you turn 50 or so, maybe start thinking down the road, what might retirement look like for me? And kind of just have that in the back of your mind. And then once you get serious about, maybe it's time to make a change, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in that range, if we can have that much time to plan for the retirement, then we've got a lot more options, as far as tax management and income management and transitioning. So I would say that 3 to 5 years is kind of nice if we have that much time.
Can we dig a little deeper on that? The financial management, the tax management, time management, things of that nature, planning early, those are three big reasons why.
Yeah, so really it's the tax management, I think, that drives a lot of retirement planning because, farmers do a great job during their careers of paying for inputs up front and selling crop and livestock, a year behind and managing their income. But then when we go to retire, it all catches up with us. So we're sitting here with, 1 or 2 years worth of crops to sell, and we don't have any fertilizer to buy next year. And if, we decide to retire in December of that year, we got a tax issue. Whereas if we know 3, 4, 5 years ahead of time we're going to retire, maybe we start spreading those grain sales out. Maybe we don't pay for inputs up front quite as much. We start averaging that income out so we don't take a big hit. Maybe we defer more grain sales. So that's why I'm saying it's good to have a few years to plan because it really helps on the tax management.
And that monetary aspect is so important. You want to make sure that you're set for a very long period of time, but there's also that emotional aspect, that humanizing aspect of retirement. Another challenge that farmers might go through when they go through this process.
Yes. I would say taxes and just the emotional aspect of, what does retirement look like for me? Most farmers want to stay pretty close to their land, stay tied to it, maybe not 12 months a year, but, in the spring and the fall, they probably want to be nearby. And it's that realization that if I truly want to retire, whatever that looks like, I do need to give up some control. I do need to give up management. I don't need to look at the grain prices every year. And it's a hard transition because, our farmers spend 50, 60 years, working every day. And now all of a sudden it's like, we don't have to work tomorrow. Well, what's that like? So it is difficult to make that transition. But, if there is a plan, as long as we know what your goals are, as we have some time to plan, there is a plan for you where we can make your retirement ideal for you and whatever that looks like for you.
staying close to your farm, to your land, to your family, really only happens if you have a succession plan and really a successor in mind. But how does the planning process differ based on whether you have a successor or maybe you don't?
Right. So I think most farmers kind of hope that they have a successor for their operation, but many don't, and that's okay. And actually, for those that don't have a successor operator, retirement can actually be easier for them because they don't have to worry about the next generation. The farmer that's retiring and passing along a farming operation to the next generation, they got to not only worry about their own finances, but they got to make sure they're passing along a viable operation. So maybe they can't, maybe they have to gift some or all of the assets. Maybe they can't get full price. Maybe they don't get full fair market rent for their land. Whereas if you don't have that obligation to the next generation, you can have an auction, sell your machinery for top dollar. You can lease out your land and, get every last penny for it and not have to worry about it. So it is two very different processes. And I would say overall, it's easier if you don't have an heir, but I would also say it's probably more satisfying if you do. More challenging, but more satisfying, probably.
That transition conversation, the succession conversation, that's an intimate, around the dinner table family conversation to have. But who else should be involved besides the family if you're putting a plan in place for retirement?
Right. So as an attorney, obviously, who am I going to say, right? But I will say, number one, I would put the accountant because just the tax implications of retiring from farming are so potentially great that I think you really have to have an understanding of what are the tax and income implications to retiring. And I would put that number one. Then once you have a good grasp of it, then we can bring in the attorney and the financial planner and whoever else may be to put that plan together. But I really put high priority on working with a good, knowledgeable accountant on that first few retirement discussions because the finances and the taxes will drive a lot of that plan.
Before I let you go, what types of programs, what types of resources are out there for those just starting to think about the prospect of retiring?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good information out there at Ohio State at our farm office website. We've got several publications on transitioning and retiring, and we do programs through Ohio State, and Farm Bureau works with Nationwide on Our Land is Your Legacy. That's also a great plan, and working with your financial advisor would be a great way to do that. So there's a lot of information out there, and I think collecting that, absorbing it, getting an idea of the different issues with retirement's a great idea. But ultimately, your plan is unique to you, and you're not going to figure out your plan reading a magazine article or attending a Ohio State or Farm Bureau meeting. It'll give you some ideas. You're going to develop your plan with your team. So get some background information, but ultimately you need to develop that team that will work with you and will customize your plan for you.
You can get some of that background information in the latest edition of Our Ohio, where you'll see Robert Moore's article in the impact section of that magazine talking about retirement for those farmers aging out. Robert Moore, an attorney and research specialist for Ohio State's Agricultural and Resource Law Program. Appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Find previous podcasts at ohiofarmbureau.org and search podcasts.